Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Well, I'll tell you, this is not Indy's destiny. No, this will not be considered an actual Indiana Jones film when all is said and done by fans of the franchise. No, but there is a dial and there is a destiny. This is Kathleen Kennedy's dial, and her destiny is to leave Lucasfilm as a result of these collapsing box office numbers. The projections are out. Indiana Jones is failing. It is failing in a miserable, embarrassing way. It is shocking. And Kathleen Kennedy, her time is up. Destiny has arrived. All right, folks, welcome back to another exciting day here on the WDW Pro channel. A joy to have each and every one of you here with me, sharing your time. What an honor that you would do so. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. It's the notification bell. We go today to Deadline to start off with. This from Anthony D'Alessandro, fresh off of Defending the Fish, the Mermaid, claiming that all of those international audiences are such terrible people. They didn't want to go see Ariel because of her skin color. But oh, wait, they did want to go see Spider-Man, even though his skin color was, well, maybe even darker. But who's keeping track of it? We've memory hold that and we're moving on. And Anthony D'Alessandro over at Deadline has moved on to Indiana Jones. And I don't think that the Hollywood intelligentsia can believe what they're seeing, because I can't believe what I'm seeing. It is worse than I think my worst possible predictions could have been. Let's dive in. The article is called Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny to ring up around $60 million opening. Here's why. Early box office outlook. And this is going to be grim, so hang tight. In the wake of world premiering in Cannes to lackluster film reviews at 50% rotten, Disney's Lucasfilm's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is currently looking at a $60 million plus, don't get excited about that plus, domestic opening. In other words, folks, The Little Mermaid came out and was quite the disappointment with a smaller budget. And this film is substantially looking to underperform The Little Mermaid. In other words, folks, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is bringing back one of cinema's all-time great heroes, an iconic character who is up there with James Bond in terms of recognition, in terms of people loving this character. And it is going to open on Independence Day. It is going to open on the week of Independence Day with $60 million, which would put it down there in the Lightyear and Strange World territory. Abysmal. That is all that we can describe this as. $60 million. And if we've watched anything from these projections from Disney, we know that this is still 3 weeks out. There's still time to drop. The movie opens on June 30th, heading into what is conceivably a 5-day play period, given that Independence Day falls on a Tuesday. Dial of Destiny's 3-day is down from $101 million 3-day of the last movie, 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And folks, the inflation for movie tickets since 2008 is out of this world. We are essentially looking at a film that will have double the price of an average ticket, and yet is coming in potentially at half the haul. Now, I don't know if there are any math experts out there. I bet you are, of course. And that would mean that this is going to pull in something like 25% of the total audience of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, a movie that drove Indiana Jones fans insane and sent them screaming from the theaters, that brought forth a parody episode, a complete parody episode from South Park. This film is aiming for a quarter of the audience domestically. Crystal Skull opened on a Thursday over a Memorial Day weekend, earning in total over 5 days $151.9 million. Logan filmmaker James Mangold took over helming the finale from franchise architect Steven Spielberg. Currently, Dial of Destiny is tracking significantly with older guys over younger, which has many comping the pick to the Daniel Craig 007 finale, No Time to Die, which, by the way, may have killed the James Bond franchise. Some are saying a $70 million start for Dial of Destiny. That's quite a stretch, says D'Alessandro, which means he doesn't believe it'll happen. Realize that Lionsgate's John Wick Chapter 4 opened to $73.8 million, with double the tracking metrics that Dial of Destiny is showing here. And I need to explain that to all of you out there, because there's something going on here in this D'Alessandro piece that you need to understand. Essentially, what we are looking at is that John Wick Chapter 4 came out with $73.8 million. Indiana Jones is currently tracking to do half of that. However, the trades are unwilling to peg it as low as that would mean, because that would drop this thing to something like $37 million. And I can understand why they would not want to put it that low. That's ludicrous. Surely it would not come in that low, and I don't believe that. But beyond that, it seems that they're just guessing, because the tracking is showing it actually coming in somewhere between 37 and 40 million. But nobody wants to say that because it's too bad. It's too awful. However, all of you, because you watch this channel and because we're here to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, you should not be surprised if Indiana Jones comes out for its opening 3-day at 50 million instead of 60. That should not shock you any longer. Be prepared. And if it does so, well, somehow it's even more embarrassing than the 60 mark. Disney will need to pick up the slack in the coming weeks in their marketing to get more interest from younger guys. It's too late. Their distraction now being Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It's not. It's going to have basically wrapped up by the time the film comes out. And the upcoming Warner Brothers DC The Flash on June 16th. Reviews for that are terrible. I don't expect it to have much of an impact. However, that hard word of mouth out of Cannes is quite the hurdle. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which wasn't beloved by many, settled at 77% certified fresh and a B cinema score versus the previous 1989 installment, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which had an 84% certified fresh from critics and a solid A cinema score. Also note that when it comes to The Last Crusade, of course, Rotten Tomatoes did not exist at the time, and the critics did not align their scores in such a way as to manipulate the overall results as they do today. And what does this all mean, folks? This means that this movie is heading for an absolute train wreck. Not the kind that injured Harrison Ford and set him on the sidelines for 6 weeks, but instead, the kind of train wreck that is big enough to actually unseat Hollywood royalty. Because at a time when Disney cannot afford to continue to lose money at the box office, remember they need to buy Hulu, they cannot afford this. This is too bad. This is too tragic. This is too embarrassing to everybody involved. This is no longer something that Disney can avoid. Kathleen Kennedy will have to go. For years and years, you have heard people say that Kathleen Kennedy is leaving, she will be fired. And throughout all of that, I have maintained that no, she is not being fired. My sources don't say that. She is being renewed, etc. In the last month, that has changed. My sources now do in fact say that Kathleen Kennedy is not long for Lucasfilm. And this will do it. Let's go now to The Hollywood Reporter by Pamela McClintock. Box office, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny tracking for $60 million to $70 million debut. Reminder to all of you out there, this film cost $332 million minimum to make, and the marketing is likely in excess of $100 million. This movie needs $1 billion to break even. It is one of the most expensive films of all time, and it is going to open under $100 million and not close. This is a film that you would hope had a $150 million production budget, because then it might have a chance. This is a flop, even with an average budget, but it is one of the most expensive films ever made. Let's get into the article. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny hopes to set off early 4th of July fireworks at the domestic box office. Well, sure it does. Sure it does. Disney in the 20th century's long-awaited next installment in the action-adventure franchise is pacing to open to $60 million to $70 million over the June 30th through June 2nd, They made a mistake there. Through the July 2nd weekend, according to early tracking, that's on par with Mission Impossible, Fallout, and No Time to Die, and those films didn't face such a crowded marketplace. Oh, Pamela. I'm sorry, Pam. There is no saving this one. There's no pretending it has a crowded marketplace. It doesn't for 12 days. And then, yes, it does. The fifth and final installment in the storied 20th century series once again returns Harrison Ford as the swashbuckling archaeologist Indiana Jones, who, by the way, we hear is no longer swashing buckles, apparently. That's been handed over to Fleabag. The 80-year-old octogenarian actor stars opposite Phoebe Waller, Fleabag Bridge, Antonio Banderas, John Rhys-Davies, Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook, Ethan Isidore, and Mads Mikkelsen in the James Mangold-directed film. And by the way, folks, this is bad enough, given that this has been written by James Mangold, directed by James Mangold, given that he attacked the fans, James Mangold. This is bad enough that this won't just take Kathleen Kennedy down. And you may say to yourself, well, Kathleen Kennedy survived Star Wars. How can she survive this? Well, she's killed everything. She wiped out Willow. Indiana Jones is now heading for a disaster. There's not really a parallel. That's what's funny about this. Maybe you have to go all the way back to like Waterworld to find a movie that has set the bar so high with its expenses and looks to perform so terribly. Well, it's bad enough that James Mangold probably doesn't come out of this looking very good. This may actually sink his career as well. The movie is a sequel to 2008's. We've got that. And Indiana Jones 5 came on tracking just weeks after its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival in France, where it played out of competition. A victorious Ford, along with the rest of the cast of Mangold, happily walked the world's most famous red carpet, and we're happy for all of them. I wish that Harrison Ford had went out on a high note, but at least he has Cannes. Keeping the film series ongoing, You Got It Bad Guys theme alive, the story revolves around an ancient device being chased by Jones and a villain played by Mikkelsen. Although it sounds to me like perhaps they're going to strap Indiana Jones into one of those baby carriers and he could just be lugged around by all the rest of the good guys who are more capable. Indiana Jones 5 is produced by Kathleen Kennedy, her husband, Frank Marshall, and Simon Emanuel, with Spielberg and George Lucas serving as executive producers, and they may greatly wish their names were not attached to this whatsoever. John Williams, who has scored every Indiana Jones film since the original Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981, once again composed the score. And don't forget that he came back and said that they were reshooting the ending. Now, given that we're seeing this, and now that I know what the ending is, well, I believe him. And I believe it was even worse at some point than it is today. And perhaps an Iger, watched this thing and said, oh my good Lord, fix this as best you can. But I don't think there's any fixing this. This is a film now that is headed for one of the biggest embarrassments in the history of cinema. That is not an overstatement. And even for Kathleen Kennedy, when you embarrass Hollywood royalty like Harrison Ford, like John Williams, like Bob Iger, when you embarrass these people this badly, not even you get to keep your job. Kathleen Kennedy is not long for Lucasfilm. There's simply no way they can afford her any longer. She has reached the point where she is so bad that not even Disney can keep her on the books. And that's the video. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. We're talking about the notification bell. We've ran through it. This is as bad as it gets, but now it's time for some good stuff. Drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think about this. Are there any movies out there that you can think of which had this kind of an earth-shattering budget and at the same time somehow look to underperform to this degree? It is something, but I would love to hear any guesses you have as to other films. I came up with Waterworld. Let's see what you've got. We're also celebrating the 20K subscriber mark for this channel. It's been under 6 months in doing this. So amazing that all of you are supporting the channel, and we are so grateful for all of you. Each and every one of you matters. You're the electricity that drives this, and we want to celebrate you this Saturday when we celebrate 20,000 subscribers. 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you are there. If you're not yet a member of the channel, you can try it out for the price of a soda, and that's each and every month. We produce tons of exclusive content, just like you see here. although we do get to go into the weeds a bit more, going even higher in our analysis. So folks, if you like this, I'm glad. Watching Indiana Jones do this makes me sad. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand that we have to talk about it. And perhaps, if we continue on this path and we continue to lay out what would be a better way forward for franchises, for studios, maybe they will stop pillaging and destroying the characters, the icons, the franchises that we love. They've done it enough with Lucasfilm, and maybe Kathleen Kennedy should step aside of her own accord before it's time for her to be removed by the likes of Iger or the board. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing. And you better believe, keep having fun.
Say it ain't so. This just in. Disney lost money on another movie. Why, that can't be. I thought that John Lasseter fella over at Pixar was cranking out the latest hits, and Marvel was unstoppable, and Disney princesses were a thing, and Star Wars was a multi-billion-dollar money-making franchise.
I overheard you talking about Disney, and wanted to let you know you're really behind the ball. If you were getting great articles from thatparkplace.com and subscribe to WDW Pro's YouTube channel, you'd actually be ahead of the culture curve and have entertainment explained.